It started with a sound no one could explain. Not loud, not sudden, just a faint, hollow echo coming from beneath the barn floor. At first, they thought it was nothing. Maybe loose wood, maybe animals trapped underneath. But what they were about to uncover was something no one had ever documented before. Because when they finally tore open the floor, they didn't find dirt. They found a staircase. And not just a few steps. A staircase going down deeper than the barn itself. Deeper than anything that should exist beneath it. The property had been abandoned for over 60 years. A quiet piece of land, sitting just outside a forgotten rural town, where nothing really changed, and no one asked too many questions. The barn itself looked ordinary at first glance. Weathered wood, a sagging roof, broken windows, letting in streaks of dull light. But there was something about it, something that made people uneasy the moment they stepped inside. The air felt heavier, still, as if the place wasn't just empty, but waiting. The new owners had no idea. To them, it was just another restoration project. Something to fix, clean up, maybe turn into a guest space or storage. They had seen the pictures online. The land was cheap. The structure looked salvageable. It seemed like an easy win. But within hours of stepping inside, that barn, things started to feel off. The first sign came when one of the workers noticed the floor wasn't level. That alone wasn't unusual for a structure this old. But this was different. One section of the floor seemed slightly raised, almost like something beneath it was pushing upward. Not enough to break through, but enough to be noticed. When they stepped over it, the wood gave off a strange hollow sound. Not like solid ground beneath, more like empty space. They laughed it off at first. Someone joked about buried treasure. Another said it was probably an old storage pit. But the moment they tried to pry up one of the boards, everything changed. The wood didn't come loose easily. It was nailed down harder than the rest of the floor, as if someone had gone out of their way to keep it sealed. That alone should have been a warning. Still, curiosity won. They brought in tools, crowbars, hammers, the kind of force you'd need to open something that didn't want to be opened. And as the first board finally cracked loose, a cold gust of air rushed up from below. Not just cool cold, the kind of cold that doesn't belong underground, the kind that makes your skin tighten instantly. One of the workers stepped back. Another leaned closer, shining a flashlight into the gap. At first, they couldn't see much, just darkness. Thick, heavy darkness that seemed to swallow the light instead of reflecting it. But then something appeared. Edges, shapes, not dirt, not stone. Steps, perfectly aligned, descending into the black. For a moment, no one spoke, because this wasn't normal, not even close. Barns don't have staircases buried beneath them. Not like this, not going down this deep. And yet, there it was, The decision to keep digging should have been harder than it was, but something about the discovery pulled them in. Not just curiosity, something stronger, almost like the place wanted to be uncovered, like it had been waiting. Board by board, they removed the floor, each piece revealing more of the staircase. And with every inch exposed, the temperature dropped further. Breath became visible in the air. Hands started to shake, not just from the cold, but from something they couldn't explain. By the time they cleared enough space to fully see it, the entire mood had changed. Because the staircase didn't just go down one level, it kept going and going, far deeper than the foundation of the barn should allow. Someone counted the visible steps, 40, maybe more, and that was just what they could see before the darkness swallowed the rest. There was no bottom in sight, no walls they could clearly make out, just a narrow descent into something that shouldn't exist beneath a structure like this. That's when the first argument started. One worker refused to go down, said it didn't feel right, said places like this don't just appear. Another laughed it off, grabbing a stronger flashlight, insisting it was probably some kind of old root cellar, maybe even something historical, something valuable. But deep down, everyone felt it. That quiet pressure in the air, that sense that they weren't supposed to be there. And then they heard it, a sound, faint, distant, but unmistakable, coming from below. Not an echo, not the wind, something else, something moving. The group froze instantly, every head turning toward the staircase, listening. Silence. For a few seconds, nothing. And then again, a soft, dragging noise, like something shifting far beneath them. That's when the first real fear set in, because whatever was down there wasn't just empty space. And yet, they kept going. Because once you find something like this, you don't just walk away. Not without knowing what it is. Not without seeing how far it goes. They set up lights around the opening. Stronger beams aimed downward. Cameras ready. Phones recording. Someone even joked about documenting the whole thing for Night Archive, not realizing how real that would become later. The plan was simple. One person would go down first. Just a quick look. Nothing more. He volunteered without hesitation. A man who had done this kind of work for years. Confident, experienced, not easily shaken. He tied a rope around his waist, just in case. Not because he believed anything would happen, but because the others insisted. He stepped onto the first stair. It creaked, not from weakness, but from age. A deep, hollow sound that echoed far longer than it should have. He paused, looked back, smiled, and then took another step, and another, each movement slower than the last, because the deeper he went, the darker it became. The light from above barely reached him after just a few steps. The flashlight in his hand became the only source of visibility, and even that seemed weaker the further down he moved. Still going, he called out, His voice sounded different, not echoed, muted, like the space was absorbing sound. 10 steps, 15, 20. The rope stretched tighter. The people above leaned closer, watching carefully. "Do you see anything?" someone shouted. There was a pause, a long one, too long. And then, "Yeah," but his tone had changed. No longer confident, no longer steady. "Yeah, there's something down here." That was the moment everything shifted, because whatever he saw was enough to change his voice. And just seconds later, he stopped moving completely. The rope went still. The light flickered once, twice, and then he whispered something, so quietly no one above could understand it. But they all felt it. That something had gone very, very wrong. For a second, no one moved. The rope hung there, completely still, stretching down into the darkness, like a line connected to something unknown. One of the workers called his name again, louder this time. No response. Just the faint hum of silence pressing in from every direction. Then, suddenly, the rope jerked. Not violently, not like something had grabbed him, just a small, controlled movement, like he had taken another step. Everyone exhaled at once, some of them even laughing nervously, trying to shake off the tension that had started building. "He's fine," someone said. "Probably just messing with us." But deep down, no one really believed that. "Hey, what do you see down there?" Another voice called out. This time, the answer came quicker. But it wasn't right. "It's not a basement." The way he said it, slow, uncertain, like he was trying to process something his mind couldn't fully understand. "What do you mean?" someone asked. There was another pause. "Then the walls, they're not straight." That didn't make sense. Everyone exchanged looks. Walls are walls. They don't just bend unless something is wrong. "How far down are you?" someone else shouted. "I don't know," he replied. "The steps just keep going. I should have hit ground by now." That's when one of the men grabbed the rope, checking how much had unspooled. His face tightened instantly, because the length didn't match what they were seeing. He had gone further down than physically possible. Much further. The barn wasn't built over anything deep enough to allow that kind of descent. Even if there had been a cellar, it wouldn't stretch this far. Not even close. "Come back up," someone said quickly. "That's enough." No answer. "Hey, come back up," they repeated, firmer this time. Still nothing. The flashlight beam below flickered again, then steadied. For a brief second, they thought they saw movement, but it wasn't him. It was something behind him, or maybe beside him. It was hard to tell. "Did you hear that?" His voice came again, suddenly tense. "Hear what?" "It sounds like footsteps." Everyone froze. "Footsteps," someone repeated. "That's you." "No," he said immediately. "Not mine." Silence crashed down again, because now everyone above could hear it too, faint, irregular, not coming from below, but from deeper than where he stood. as if there was another level beneath the level he had already reached. That's when panic started creeping in. "Come up." Now one of them snapped. The rope shifted again. Finally, slowly, it began to move upward. Relief spread across their faces as they felt the tension ease slightly. He was coming back. Whatever was down there didn't matter. They'd seen enough. But then the rope stopped. Midway, completely still again. "Why did you stop?" Someone yelled. No answer. "Move." "Come up." A long, heavy silence followed. And then a laugh, soft, low, but not his. Every single person standing above the opening felt it instantly. That sound didn't belong to the man on the rope. It was deeper, rougher, almost like it was coming from a throat that hadn't been used in years. "Who's down there?" Someone whispered, even though they already knew how insane that question sounded. The rope twitched again, but this time it moved in the wrong direction. Down, slowly, deliberately, as if something was pulling it. "Pull him up," someone shouted. 3 of them grabbed the rope at once, yanking hard, trying to drag him back. For a second, it worked. The rope tightened. It shifted upward. Then suddenly, it snapped back. Not breaking, but resisting. Like there was weight on the other end. Dead weight, or worse. "Keep pulling," one of them screamed. They strained, muscles locking, boots sliding against the wooden floor. The rope burned against their hands as it moved inch by inch. And then, all at once, the tension disappeared. They stumbled backward, collapsing onto the floor as the rope went slack. Fast, too fast. They scrambled up, grabbing it again, pulling it in frantically. And as the rope came up, their hands slowed, because something was wrong. The end of it was lighter, much lighter. When they finally pulled it completely out, there was nothing attached. No man, no body, just the rope. Cut clean, not frayed, not broken, cut. For a moment, no one spoke. No one even breathed, because that didn't make sense. He had tied it around himself. They had checked it. There was no way it could just come loose like that. Unless someone cut it. But that would mean someone was down there. The realization hit all of them at the same time. And that's when the second sound came. Not from below, from behind them. A soft, dragging noise across the wooden floor. They turned instantly. Nothing. The barn was empty, completely still. Except it was, because the air had changed. The temperature had dropped even further. And that same hollow feeling from beneath the floor was now all around them. One of the workers backed away from the opening slowly. "We need to leave," he said, his voice barely steady. No one argued. They started gathering their tools, moving quickly but quietly, as if making too much noise might trigger something. Every step felt heavier, every breath sharper. And then another sound, closer this time. That same dragging, scraping movement. But now it was coming from the staircase. Someone looked down, and immediately stumbled back, because for just a split second they saw something. Not clearly, not fully, just a shape, standing on one of the steps, too tall, too thin, and completely still, watching. "Did you see that?" someone whispered. No one answered, because they had all seen it. And whatever it was, it hadn't been there before. The instinct to run kicked in instantly. They didn't wait, didn't question, didn't look back. They rushed out of the barn, boots slamming against the ground, hearts pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. The moment they crossed the threshold, it felt like stepping into a different world. The air outside was warmer, lighter, normal, but behind them, the barn stood silent, unmoving, like nothing had happened. They didn't go back that day, or the next. In fact, for almost a week, no one returned to the property. But the story didn't end there, because what they had found beneath that barn didn't stay there. And a few nights later, something followed them home. The first night after they left the barn, none of them slept properly, not because of what they had seen, but because of what they felt. That lingering pressure, that quiet, suffocating weight that didn't disappear when they stepped outside. It followed them, subtle at first, easy to ignore if you tried hard enough. But once you noticed it, you couldn't unfeel it. The man who had been closest to the rope, Ethan, was the first to admit something was wrong. He said it started as a sound, a faint dragging noise just outside his bedroom door. At first, he thought it was his dog, but when he opened the door, the hallway was empty, silent. The dog was asleep downstairs, and yet the sound had been real, clear enough to wake him. He went back to bed, tried to ignore it, but a few minutes later, it came again, closer this time, right outside his room. Slow, deliberate, like something was being pulled across the floor. He didn't open the door again. Instead, he just sat there, staring at it, waiting, listening. And that's when the whisper came. Soft, barely audible, but unmistakably there, from the other side of the door. He couldn't make out the words at first, just a faint murmur, like someone speaking under their breath. But then it became clearer. A single phrase, repeated over and over, still going. Ethan didn't move, didn't breathe, because he recognized that voice. It wasn't his. It wasn't anyone in the house. It was the man who had gone down the staircase, the one who never came back. By morning, Ethan was gone. No note, no signs of struggle, just an empty house and the front door slightly open. At first, they thought he had left, needed space, time to process everything. But when his phone was found on the kitchen table, still unlocked, still recording, that's when things escalated. Because the last thing captured on that recording was the sound of footsteps inside the house, and then that same dragging noise, followed by a whisper right next to the phone. Not finished, the others tried to rationalize it. tried to explain it away. Stress, fear, imagination, anything but what it actually felt like. But then the second incident happened. Marcus, the one who had suggested documenting everything for Night Archive, started noticing changes in his own home. At first, it was small. Objects slightly out of place. Doors left open when he was sure he had closed them. Lights flickering at random times. He told himself it was nothing. Old wiring, distraction. Until the night he saw it. He had gotten up around 2 a.m., heading to the kitchen for water. The house was dark, quiet, exactly how it should be at that hour. But as he walked past the living room, he froze, because someone was standing there. At the far end of the room, facing the wall, completely still. For a moment, his brain refused to process it, tried to turn it into something normal. A coat on a hanger, a shadow, anything. But then it moved, just slightly, its head tilting in a way that didn't look human. Marcus didn't speak, didn't step forward. He just stood there, watching, as the figure slowly turned its head. Not its body, just its head, until it was looking directly at him. And that's when he saw the face, or what was left of it, stretched, distorted, as if it had been pulled downward for too long. The eyes sunken, empty, but aware. And then it smiled, a slow, unnatural curve that didn't belong on anything living. Marcus ran, didn't look back, didn't stop until he reached his car. And even then, he didn't feel safe. Because as he slammed the door shut, he heard it from the back seat. That same whisper. Deeper by the third day, all of them were experiencing something. Different houses, different locations, same pattern, sounds, whispers, movement where there shouldn't be any. It didn't matter where they went. It didn't matter how far they stayed from the barn. Whatever they had uncovered hadn't stayed buried. And then came the footage. Marcus, still shaken but desperate for answers, went back to the recordings they had taken at the barn. Hours of video, most of it normal. Them working, talking, laughing before everything went wrong. But then they found the moment, the exact point where everything changed. It was a wide-angle shot, placed near the opening of the staircase. It showed the man descending, step by step, the rope trailing behind him. At first, nothing unusual, just darkness swallowing him as he went lower. But then, the camera picked up something they hadn't seen before. On the wall beside the staircase, marks, long, uneven lines carved into the surface. Not random, not natural. They formed patterns, symbols, repeating over and over. And the deeper he went, the more they appeared, covering the walls completely. But that wasn't the worst part. Because as the footage continued, the camera caught movement. Behind him, not in front, not below, behind. Something emerging from the darkness between the steps. Not climbing, not walking, just appearing. piece by piece, like it was forming itself as it moved closer. Its limbs too long, its posture wrong, and its head tilted at an angle no human body could hold. It followed him silently, step for step, staying just outside the reach of his flashlight. And then, right before the moment the rope stopped, it reached out, not grabbing him, not attacking, just touching his shoulder, gently, and the moment it did, he froze, completely, as if something inside him had been switched off. The footage glitched after that. Static, distortion, and then it cut. But for a single frame, right before the video ended, the camera captured something else. At the very bottom of the staircase, a doorway, not natural, not part of the structure, something built, and whatever was inside it was moving. By the time they finished watching the footage, there was no doubt left. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't just a hidden space. This was something intentional, something sealed away. And somehow they had opened it. That's when the calls started coming in from people in the nearby town. Complaints, strange sightings, figures seen near the edge of properties at night, standing in fields, watching houses, and always facing the same direction, toward the barn, the same barn they had uncovered, the same place they had left open. And that's when one of them said it out loud, the thing none of them wanted to admit. We didn't just find something, he paused, looking at the others. We let it out. Silence filled the room, because deep down they all knew it was true. And the worst part, they still didn't know what was waiting at the bottom of those stairs. No one wanted to be the one who said it next, but everyone was thinking the same thing. If whatever came out had started spreading, then the only place to stop it was where it began, back at the barn. The idea felt wrong the moment it was spoken out loud. Going back wasn't just dangerous, it felt like exactly what it wanted. Like every strange event, every whisper, every appearance in their homes was pushing them toward one thing: return. Still, they had no choice, because whatever was happening outside was getting worse. Reports from the nearby town had increased. People waking up to footprints around their homes. Doors found open in the morning. Animals going missing without a trace. And then, the first confirmed sighting. A woman claimed she saw someone standing in her backyard at night, not moving, not approaching, just standing there facing her house. When she turned on the lights, it didn't run, it didn't react. It just slowly tilted its head and then stepped backward into the darkness, as if it knew exactly how far it could go before disappearing. That was the moment they realized this wasn't random. This was controlled, and it was spreading. So they gathered again, same group, or at least what was left of it. Ethan was gone, no trace, no answers, just that recording. Marcus looked worse than the others, pale, exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days, because he hadn't. every time he closed his eyes, he saw that face again, that stretched, unnatural smile. But he still came back, because none of them could walk away anymore. Not after what they had seen, not after what they had unleashed. The drive to the property felt longer this time, quieter. No one spoke. No one even turned on the radio. The closer they got, the heavier the air became. That same pressure returning, waiting. When the barn finally came into view, something immediately felt wrong. The doors were open, wide. They were sure they had closed them, locked them. But now they stood there, slowly creaking with the wind, inviting or warning. No one said it, but they all felt it. It knew they were coming. They stepped inside carefully. The temperature dropped instantly, colder than before, colder than it should ever be. Their breath visible again in the air, and the smell damp, rotten, like something old had been disturbed. The opening in the floor was exactly how they had left it. Boards removed, staircase exposed. But something had changed. The edges of the wood were marked now, scratched, deep lines carved into them. Same pattern as the symbols they had seen in the footage, except these were fresh, recently made. No one had been here. No one should have been here, which meant something else had. They set up lights again, stronger this time, more controlled, no mistakes, because this wasn't about curiosity anymore. This was about ending it. Marcus stepped forward first, looking down into the darkness. The staircase seemed deeper now, not physically, but visually, like the darkness had thickened, like it was no longer just absence of light, but something else entirely. "I'll go," he said quietly. No one argued. Maybe because they knew someone had to. Maybe because deep down, they all felt like it was meant to be him. He didn't take a rope this time, didn't ask for one, didn't want one, because after what happened last time, they all knew it wouldn't matter. He stepped onto the first stair. No creak this time, no sound at all, just silence swallowing his movement. Step by step, he descended. The others watched, not speaking, not blinking, as his figure slowly faded into the dark. 10 steps, 20, 30, and then his light became the only thing visible. A small beam floating in nothing. "Do you see it?" someone called out. A pause, then, "Yes." His voice echoed differently now. Not muted, not absorbed, but layered, as if something else was speaking underneath it. "What is it?" another asked. Another pause, longer, then, "It's a door." Silence above, because they already knew. They had seen it in the footage, but hearing it confirmed made it real. "What's behind it?" Marcus whispered. This time, there was no pause. "It's open." The words hit harder than anything else, because they hadn't opened it. They hadn't gone that far, which meant something else had. "Marcus, come back up," someone said quickly. No response. "Marcus." Nothing. Then the light flickered. Once. Twice. and then steadied again. But something was different. The angle had changed, like he wasn't standing anymore, like he was looking through something. And then he spoke again. But it wasn't him. We were waiting. The voice was wrong, deeper, layered, plural. And right after that, the light went out. Completely. The staircase fell into absolute darkness. The kind of darkness that feels alive. They didn't hesitate this time. Didn't call out. Didn't wait. They moved instantly. Grabbing the boards, throwing them back over the opening. One by one. Fast. Desperate. As if covering it again would somehow undo everything. As if sealing it would push whatever was inside back where it came from. The moment the last board slammed into place, everything stopped. The cold, gone. The pressure, gone. The silence, normal again. They stood there, breathing hard, staring at the floor. Waiting. Listening, nothing. No sound. No movement. No whispers. For the first time since it began, everything felt still. Safe. Or at least, that's what they wanted to believe. They left the barn without saying a word, closed the doors behind them, and this time they didn't come back. Days passed, then weeks, and slowly the reports stopped. No more sightings, no more sounds, no more disappearances. It was over, or at least it seemed like it was. Until the footage was reviewed one last time. Not the old footage, the new one. The one they had left recording during their return. At first, it showed exactly what they remembered. Them entering the barn, setting up lights, Marcus going down. The moment everything went dark, and then static. For several seconds. Nothing visible, just distortion. But then the image cleared. The camera still pointed at the staircase, but the boards were no longer in place. The opening was uncovered again. Slowly, something moved into frame, not from above, from below, a hand. Pale, unnatural, gripping the edge of the floor, pulling itself upward. And then another, and another. Multiple hands, climbing, emerging. And just before the footage cut completely, one face appeared, looking directly into the camera, smiling. That same stretched, impossible smile. The video ended there, but the file didn't, because the last frame was still, frozen, and in the background, barely visible, standing behind the camera, there were more, watching, waiting, not trapped anymore, not sealed, just quiet, for now. So if you're watching this, and you ever come across a place that feels wrong, a place that seems empty, but don't open it. Don't go down, because some things aren't buried to be found. They're buried to stay hidden. And once they're uncovered, they don't just wait below. They follow, they spread, and they never go back. If this story stayed with you, if it made you question what might be hidden beneath places we think we understand, then make sure you leave a comment below and share this with someone who loves real, unexplained mysteries. And if you want more stories like this from Night Archive, you already know what to do.